Just 1 year ago, Zhou Yi transmigrated into this world and discovered that it was filled with numerous copies and monsters, and humans contended against these monsters by changing jobs and leveling up. Just like in online games, Zhou Yi also welcomed the day of his class awakening. At this moment, Headmaster Luo Heng reminded the students to be cautious when choosing a job, to select the appropriate class based on their own circumstances. The students below were fantasizing about switching to powerful jobs and then rampaging through monsters. A few minutes later, the class awakening ceremony officially began that was facilitated by the 24th level mage. When I call out your student number, step into the magic circle. With a wave of his magic wand, the ground's magic circle began to emit bursts of purple light, accompanied by a gust of wind. But something was watching from the shadows. Something that had been waiting for this exact moment. The dazzling light and fierce wind made it impossible for the students to open their eyes. Once the magic circle was activated, Zhou Yi could not help but admire the strength of the 24th level mage. Zhou Yi's homeroom teacher, Li Xiangyang, also began to call out names according to student numbers. As the first student's name was called, the class awakening circle activated the moment that students stepped in. Each person only had 3 types of classes to choose from during their class awakening. But in this world ravaged by monsters, combat classes were undoubtedly the most sought after, while the status of life-type classes was the lowest. And the first student who went up had only life-type classes available to choose from. As time slowly passed, it finally came to Zhou Yi's name. Zhou Yi slowly walked towards the class awakening circle. Little did he know that his choice would set in motion events that would shake the very foundations of their world. The moment he stepped into the circle, the necklace on his neck suddenly lit up, and the light continued to rise. Soon after, a burst of energy erupted from the necklace. System activating. System load complete. Your strongest class support system has been activated. System prompt. Please collect your rookie starter gift. S+ rank talent. Protection of the Sacred Angel. Zhou Yi watched this scene and couldn't help but rub his eyes, because he couldn't believe this was his system. This necklace was bought from a street vendor in his previous life and later transmigrated with Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi claimed the rookie starter gift, Protection of the Sacred Angel. S+. Light affinity greatly increased. All light and divine skill effects are doubled. Yet deep beneath the academy, an ancient seal began to crack at the sudden surge of divine energy. In this world, the higher the talent grade, the better the enhancement effect. Most importantly, the 3 classes in the class awakening ceremony are greatly related to the talent. Suddenly, a hole tore through the cloud-filled sky, and a stream of golden energy broke through the clouds to the ground, forming a huge beam of light. But it didn't end there. Immediately after, energy flew from the sky at high speed, forming numerous golden light beams. The headmaster and the 24th level mage knew that this was a heavenly phenomenon associated with the awakening of a talent. At that moment, within the most eye-catching beam of light, an angel appeared. Dressed in white with a halo above her head and 6 wings on her back, Zhou Yi was stunned, and so was everyone else below, because the angel's wings were as white as snowflakes, emitting a soft glow, bringing a sense of tranquility and sanctity. But in a distant realm, something else had taken notice of this divine manifestation. Something that despised all things holy. The 6-winged angel flew towards Zhou Yi and transformed into a stream of energy as it neared him. Zhou Yi seemed enveloped by the divine, being chosen by this entity. A massive energy burst forth from within him, and the golden light climbed even higher. The light gradually dissipated, revealing 3 figures made of golden energy. The students below asked the homeroom teacher what these classes were. The teacher, shocked, "These are hidden classes." At this moment, Zhou Yi rested his chin in his hand and began to think about which of the 3 classes to choose. He then analyzed the 3 classes. The Mage of Light is a pure DPS class, but a bit weak in protecting themselves. Unknown to Zhou Yi, his choice would determine not just his future, but the fate of everyone he held dear. The Holy Priest have a lot of life-saving skills and the Resurrection skill, but the damage output is weak. The Saint Knight is an all-encompassing class, capable of tanking, dealing damage, and healing, although it does not excel in any field. But I have the Protection of the Sacred Angel talent, which actually makes it the most suitable for me. When Zhou Yi chose the Saint Knight, the previously virtual Saint Knight moved. He had now transformed into his true form. Clad in armor, with a golden cape and wielding a long hammer, a supremely holy Saint Knight appeared before the eyes of the world. Suddenly, a cross of light flashed in the Saint Knight's eyes. humility, honesty, bravery, empathy, responsibility to commit acts of glory, to pursue justice and cause for your life. This is a Saint Knight Zhou Yi understood. These are the duties of a Saint Knight. But with great power came ancient enemies who would stop at nothing to destroy him. Afterward, the energy from the Saint Knight gradually transferred to Zhou Yi, revealing a holy six-winged Saint Knight with a golden halo appeared. The system also transmitted, "Congratulations, you have awakened into a Saint Knight. The system, your Saint Knight level is now 10. Skills received: slow regeneration, weapon blessing, blade of pure white, and an additional 10 unassigned points received." After the class awakening was completed, Zhou Yi was also pursued by his classmates. His homeroom teacher squeezed through the crowd and said, "Zhou Yi, you did well, a hidden class. Rest today, and remember to visit the headmaster's office tomorrow." Later, Zhou Yi went home and opened the system, looking at his existing stat points. He immediately added them all to strength and constitution. His stat panel underwent changes, and this feeling of becoming stronger was very exhilarating. But in the shadows of his room, something stirred, something that had been drawn by his newfound power, and this feeling of becoming stronger was very exhilarating. The system detected that it was the first time that stat points were used, which triggered a Saint Knight quest. Looking at these rewards, he knew that he must take it. He immediately clicked accept, and then a beam of light enveloped him as the system assigned a trial ground that matched his level. After the match was successful, "Death in this trial will also mean death in reality. Please take it seriously." This message left him stunned for a while. After several seconds, Zhou Yi arrived at a place that looked like a mine. He began to observe the mine, recalling the knowledge about monsters his teacher had once shared. At that moment, a monster suddenly appeared behind him. What Zhou Yi didn't realize was that this creature had been specifically sent to test him, and it was far more intelligent than any ordinary beast. Zhou Yi sensed the monster that appeared behind him in just an instant. Faced with the sudden attack of the monster, Zhou Yi easily dodged. With a slight exertion of his legs, Zhou Yi flew several meters high, a change brought about by his awakening to a Saint Knight. The monster continued to attack Zhou Yi, but no matter how the beast swung its claws, Zhou Yi easily dodged them. Seeing such slow speeds, Zhou Yi couldn't help but mock. However, Zhou Yi paid the price for his complacency. The monster's tail could also attack. Caught off guard, Zhou Yi suffered a significant blow. At this moment, Zhou Yi realized that even when facing the weakest monster, he can't look down on it. Yet somewhere deeper in the mine, something far more dangerous had heard the sounds of battle and was now heading his way. Fortunately, the Saint Knight's slow regeneration skill could heal his injuries, and within moments, Zhou Yi's wounds had healed. From this moment on, Zhou Yi decided to use his full strength to deal with the monster. After a few minutes of overpowering battle, Zhou Yi sent the monster to another world. The system then offered 3 choices of rewards. After careful consideration, Zhou Yi chose rewards 1 and 3, gaining 10 free stat points and random Saint Knight equipment. A simple one-handed sword. This space gradually disappeared, and Zhou Yi returned to his bedroom. As the alarm Zhou Yi set every day to remind himself to visit his sister in the hospital set off. After Zhou Yi came to this world, his mother passed away. But what he didn't know was that his mother's death was no accident, and the same forces that killed her were now targeting his sister. He only had his sister, Zhou Yun, left. But Zhou Yun suddenly contracted a strange disease, which even doctors couldn't diagnose, only able to be maintained daily by low-level priests. For this reason, Zhou Yi not only sold his house, but also borrowed a lot of money. In a hospital room, Zhou Yi visited his sister every day. Zhou Yun was watching a news report on TV about a student who had awakened a talent during class awakening, causing a heavenly phenomenon and eventually awakening into a hidden class. Just as Zhou Yun was engrossed in the news, a nurse with a fierce face turned off the TV. This nurse was there to urge Zhou Yun to pay the medical fees. Zhou Yun took the medical bill and, seeing the costs had doubled, couldn't help but ask the nurse for the reason. But the nurse didn't plan to explain and even viciously said, "If you don't have money, get out of the hospital. Don't occupy the ward here. Why come to the hospital if you have no money?" At this moment, a man in a black suit stopped the nurse. But Zhou Yi had no idea that this seemingly helpful stranger was about to change everything, and not necessarily for the better. "Are you insulting the patient? Is this how you treat patients? Is this what your director teaches you?" Seeing that this man was not someone to mess with, the nurse warned that Zhou Yun must pay the medical bill today and then left. "Who are you? Are you here to collect a debt?" Miss Zhou Yun asked. "I am a friend of your brother," the man said, taking out a business card that clearly stated Secretary Zhao Wenbin. A few minutes later, Zhou Yi also arrived at the hospital. Zhou Yi, puzzled by the extra 10,000 yuan in the hospital account, asked the two people in his sister's room for their names. After some introductions, Zhou Yi understood the situation. He learned that this man was the mayor's secretary. Zhou Yi did not expect to have caught the mayor's attention. After some pleasantries, Zhou Yi suggested they go somewhere else to talk. What Zhou Yi didn't realize was that accepting the mayor's help would bind him to obligations he couldn't yet imagine. Zhao Wenbin gave a few instructions to his bodyguard and then followed Zhou Yi. They went to a cafe where Zhao Wenbin said, "Mr. Zhou, the mayor values you highly and has specifically instructed the media not to disturb you. The mayor has also prepared a set of cultivation resources for you." After saying this, he took out a box which contained a key. "These resources are in a bank safe, and this is the only key to it." Zhou Yi knew that this was the mayor investing in him, seeing potential in his future. Just as Zhou Yi was hesitating about whether to accept, Zhao Wenbin said something that made it impossible for Zhou Yi to refuse. "Starting today, a professional medical team will serve Miss Zhou Yun 24 hours a day, and the mayor has also contacted a level 36 second-grade priest to heal Zhou Yun." Just like that, Zhou Yi accepted the mayor's investment. For his sister Zhou Yun, he had to accept. Zhou Yi returned to his sister's hospital room and told Zhou Yun everything. Zhou Yun was overjoyed. "Can I hang on to you like an accessory? Stop talking about all these unnecessary things. Focus on getting better now. What's your exclusive skill?" "I heard every class has its own exclusive skills." Speaking of this, Zhou Yi remembered a skill of the Saint Knight. Slow regeneration. It can slowly restore life points. Yet as he prepared to use his healing power, neither sibling noticed the strange frost forming on the window, a sign that Zhou Yun's true condition was far worse than anyone realized. Zhu Yi decided to try it on his sister. As Zhou Yi placed his hand on his sister's head, a light enveloped Zhou Yun completely. At this moment, Zhou Yun felt very comfortable, as if she was soaking in a hot spring, followed by a full-body massage. Zhou Yun was amazed, because her hand no longer hurt or felt cold, and her body felt more energetic. This was also part of the reason why Zhou Yi chose the Saint Knight. Even if it couldn't cure his sister's strange disease, being able to alleviate her pain was good enough. The next day, accompanied by the headmaster, Zhou Yi learned that 4 of the top 10 domestic universities had come to offer to recruit him. Zhou Yi also inquired about which universities they were, and the headmaster listed them one by one. Zhou Yi followed the headmaster to a room where the representatives of the 4 universities appeared. Teacher Yu Yuan from Anji University, Teacher Zhu Yu from Hancheng University, Teacher Li Bing from Chuanan University, and Teacher Zhou Tianfu from Rongyang University. But what none of them knew was that one of these teachers harbored a deadly secret that would soon threaten Zhou Yi's life. "Hello, teachers." Zhou Yi also deeply bowed and greeted them as he entered, a gesture that earned him a lot of goodwill from the teachers. Zhou Tianfu got straight to the point. "If you join our Rongyang University, we can offer you 2 million yuan and 3 Saint Knight skill books." Zhou Yi was startled upon hearing this, as a child from a poor family had never seen so much money. However, the special recruitment was far from over. "As long as you enroll at Chuanan University, we will give you 3 million yuan, 3 Saint Knight skill books a year, and personal coaching from a level 56 tertiary awakened knight." Even the headmaster was shocked by Chuanan University's offer. But teacher Zhu Yu from Hancheng University shook his head after hearing this. "If you join Hancheng University, we will immediately give you a B-class cultivation resource and 2 million yuan as an entrance bonus." Even though he is not being recruited, the headmaster was quickly persuaded to agree, because the value of a B-grade resource cannot be measured in money. Unknown to everyone in the room, Zhou Yi's decision would trigger a chain of events that would make him the target of the most dangerous organization in the country. All the teachers were waiting for Zhou Yi's reply, but Zhou Yi said something that shocked everyone. "Teachers, I'm sorry, I plan to give up this special admission. Can you give me a reason? I want to apply to the top 3 elite universities." The top 3 elite universities are Sukang University, Qingjing University, and Modu University, which only accept 1,000 students each year and have a status far above other universities, serving as a gathering place for the elite of the country. After hearing Zhou Yi's bold words, Zhou Tianfu became angry. "I thought you were a good kid. Turns out you're just an arrogant fool. You've spent the first 18 years without the resources to build your foundation, and you say you want to get into the top 3 elite universities. Ridiculous. Upon seeing this, the headmaster immediately stood up against Zhou Tianfu's intimidation. "Teacher Zhou, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to bully my student on my grounds?" However, Teacher Zhu Yu noticed something. That Zhou Yi was able to withstand Zhou Tianfu's pressure for more than 3 breaths. But what Teacher Zhu Yu didn't realize was that Zhou Yi's resistance to the pressure had awakened something dark within Zhou Tianfu, something that would soon seek revenge. Knowing he was in the wrong, Zhou Tianfu just snorted coldly, and then left with the other teachers. Zhu Yu said to Zhou Yi, "The doors of Hancheng University are always open for you. After all, getting into the top 3 elite universities is as hard as reaching the heavens." Zhou Yi responded, "I will prove myself in the exam." Only Zhou Yi knew that with the system, he would definitely secure a place in the top 3 universities. Soon, a month passed and the major exam was about to start. Many students were discussing it with ambition and excitement. At that time, one person caught their attention. It was Zhou Yi. The terrifying aura emanating from him amazed everyone. Zhou Yi arrived at the entrance of the map, and the door immediately displayed all the information about this exam's location. Yet hidden in the exam's code was a trap specifically designed to eliminate candidates like Zhou Yi, and he was walking straight into it. And the door immediately displayed all the information about this exam's location. Everyone was shocked upon seeing it, as the difficulty of this map was comparable to the hardest one in history, practically designed to doom them. The homeroom teachers of each class also advised everyone to measure their strength and use a return scroll if they couldn't handle it, because death in the map meant actual death. As the countdown ended, all the candidates were enveloped by a force. The next second, all the candidates entered the map. Instance difficulty. Nightmare team size, 1 person. All the candidates' information appeared on the big screen, and at that moment, many younger students were drawn to one person's information, that of Zhou Yi, because he had chosen to tackle the nightmare-level difficulty alone. In a shadowy room overlooking the exam grounds, someone smiled coldly. Zhou Yi had just signed his own death warrant. Zhou Yi's choice made the director of the Education Bureau, Zhan Tao, break out in a cold sweat. Why would Zhou Yi choose the nightmare difficulty with a 40% mortality rate and alone at that? Isn't this suicidal? Headmaster Luo, you might not be aware, but the city has provided Zhou Yi with quite a few resources this month. If he dies, our city is likely to rank last. Director Zhan, calm down. You have to believe in Zhou Yi. He must have his reasons for making this choice. At this moment, Zhou Yi was navigating through various jungles, and he noticed a group of monsters eyeing him. Zhou Yi summoned a weapon from the system. As he summoned the single-blade axe, the monsters also attacked him. With one swing of the axe, the battle officially began. But these weren't ordinary monsters. They had been specifically enhanced to counter Saint Knight abilities. The battle officially began. The monster was instantly split in 2, but the battle was not over, which was exactly what Zhou Yi wanted. He then activated Weapon Blessing and charged at the monster. With the enhancement from Weapon Blessing, the single-blade axe inflicted even greater damage. With one swing of the axe, the monster was instantly annihilated, leaving no remains. Then 3 monsters took advantage of the gap and launched an attack, but Zhou Yi merely swung a cross at them. Countless crosses made of light energy struck the monsters, and then Zhou Yi grabbed the severed hand of a monster and threw it with all his might at the remaining one, easily annihilating the last beast as well. Yet from deep within the exam realm, an ancient evil had sensed the holy power and was now stirring from its eternal slumber, and threw it with all his might at the remaining one, easily annihilating the last beast as well. The classmates were shocked by Zhou Yi's immense strength, but their homeroom teacher noticed something different about Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi's speed was even faster than that of a cat monster. His stats were definitely not low, and his combat awareness was top-notch. Zhou Yi was definitely a combat genius, but his fighting style was unwise. Nightmare-level maps have a huge number of monsters, and his battle axe was very heavy, significantly affecting sustained combat, and he might even be overwhelmed by the sheer number of monsters in the end. As they spoke, countless monsters swarmed up, giving Zhou Yi no chance to breathe. But among the horde, something else moved. A figure in dark robes who had been waiting for this exact moment to strike. A terrifying group of cat monster was attacking Zhou Yi. He picked up his battle axe and struck them fiercely. After gaining some distance, Zhou Yi executed a blade of pure white, a fiery cross slash that fiercely collided with the cat monsters. He threw his battle axe, splitting countless cat monsters in 2. The speed and weight of the battle axe were too much for the cat monsters to handle. Finally, with one swing of his axe, The last cat monster was also slain. After killing the last cat monster, a portal appeared. Zhou Yi immediately stepped through the portal, likely heading into the second stage. What awaited Zhou Yi were similarly numerous cat monsters, but these were different from the first stage. What Zhou Yi couldn't see was the malevolent intelligence controlling them from the shadows, studying his every move. Under Zhou Yi's evaluation technique, all the information about the cat monsters appeared before him. These cat monsters were not only skilled in melee combat, but also in curses, healing, and fireball spells. There were even healers, mages, supports, and tanks proficient in healing, a classic team composition. This level's cat monsters were more than twice as strong as those on the previous level. Cat monsters and a minotaur charged at Zhou Yi from the front, while mages and supports provided ranged support from behind, their coordination momentarily stunning Zhou Yi. The next second, Zhou Yi was cursed by a cat monster, and in front of him were countless fireballs and monsters. But Zhou Yi just laughed, even complimenting the monsters on their tactical coordination. Yet he had no idea that each curse was slowly weakening the barrier protecting his mind from external influence. Just as the cat monsters prepared to close in on Zhou Yi, he readied his counterattack. Zhou Yi then moved, a holy and radiant aura bursting from within him. With a cry of "Cross of the Sacred Light," a massive holy cross appeared, enveloping the entire group of cat monsters. With one strike, the painful screams of the cat monsters echoed throughout the map. Even the mages and supports behind them could not avoid this attack. When the dust settled, the once formidable group of cat monsters now lay scattered on the ground. The only one surviving was the slightly higher-leveled Minotaur. After Zhou Yi's taunt, a crazed Minotaur charged at him using a barbaric sprint. But hidden in the creature's rage was something else, an intelligence that didn't belong to any ordinary beast. Zhou Yi delivered a swing in the air, sending the Minotaur flying like a meteor. This was not the end. Zhou Yi followed up with a blade of pure white. A fiery cross slashed flying towards the Minotaur. The Minotaur, tough-skinned and fleshy, was not killed by this strike, but the battle was already over, as the Minotaur was powerless to resist. With a final axe chop, the Minotaur spat out blood, but it had not truly died yet, so Zhou Yi had to deliver final stomp. After killing the Minotaur, a portal appeared once again. When Zhou Yi entered the third level, he was greeted by a monster sitting on a throne. The beast on the throne was the king of the Minotaurs, the Minotaur King. To dare to step into my palace is to be prepared to die. But what Zhou Yi didn't realize was that this creature was merely a puppet, and its true master was about to reveal itself, is to be prepared to die. The Minotaur King's fierce strike hit the ground. It had reacted. At that instant, Zhou Yi activated the Saint Knight's initial form. Zhou Yi was no longer holding back. He intended to kill the Minotaur King in his strongest form. The Minotaur King moved, and Zhou Yi moved as well. They instantly faced each other. Zhou Yi's full-strength axe chop was caught single-handedly by the Minotaur King. Despite Zhou Yi's continued effort and multiple buffs on his axe, he still could not penetrate its flesh. The Minotaur King's melee capability was absolutely terrifying as he hit Zhou Yi with its other hand. Whether it was the difference in strength or physical constitution, Zhou Yi could not compare. A single strike from the Minotaur King could cause Zhou Yi significant damage, and this was the first time Zhou Yi was at a disadvantage in close combat. Yet something even more terrifying was stirring in the depths of the palace, something that made even the Minotaur King tremble. And this was the first time Zhou Yi was at a disadvantage in close combat. After that strike, Zhou Yi fully woke up. He realized he couldn't engage the Minotaur King in melee, so next he would use ranged attacks to kill the Minotaur King. Since the Minotaur King's agility was extremely low, under the attack of numerous holy spears, the Minotaur King's formidable strength held up. But Zhou Yi's plan was far from over. Under a vast number of concentrated attacks, the Minotaur King showed its flaw. His resistance was very low, so Zhou Yi just needed to seize that moment of weakness to win. He could severely injure the Minotaur King. With the Minotaur King already half kneeling on the ground, Zhou Yi wouldn't miss this opportunity, and he immediately unleashed the holy spears, giving the Minotaur King a second severe blow. But as the creature fell, something dark and ancient began to seep from its wounds, something that should never have been released, and he immediately unleashed the holy spears, giving the Minotaur King a second severe blow. The prolonged battle exhausted Zhou Yi's mana, but he had no time to rest, and immediately followed up with an axe chop. Finally, the battle came to an end. With Zhou Yi's full effort in clearing the stage, He even broke a long-standing historical record. Indeed, Zhou Yi could now be certain he was the top scholar of the Sukang province's exam, which made him very happy. Zhou Yi slowly walked through the teleportation portal. When Zhou Yi emerged, a series of rewards followed. He not only leveled up 3 times, but also received a golden level item and some standard gear and equipment. But his moment of triumph was about to be shattered by news that would change everything. When Zhou Yi appeared on the scene, countless cheers echoed through the sky as Zhou Yi's formidable strength had won them over, and he had even become their idol. Hailed as God Yi, Zhou Yi was momentarily stunned. The headmaster and director Zhan were already waiting there, along with many reporters. Just then, a car that could fly and was said to be worth as much as a house in the capital suddenly arrived. It turned out this was a car Director Zhan had arranged especially for transporting Zhou Yi. But Zhou Yi did not go home because he needed to visit the hospital. Under Zhao Wenbin's arrangements, Zhou Yun was staying in the best and most luxurious medical room. Soon, Zhou Yi entered the elevator and pressed the floor where Zhou Yun was located. Just as the elevator was about to arrive to the proper floor, a lot of cold air suddenly seeped through the door gap. The nurse, shivering on the spot, thought the air conditioning was on. But Zhou Yi noticed that the elevator had frosted over, sensing that something was amiss. What awaited him above was a horror beyond his worst nightmares. The nurse, shivering on the spot, thought the air conditioning was on. But Zhou Yi noticed that the elevator had frosted over, sensing that something was amiss. As the elevator doors opened, the scene before them was shocking. The unusual coldness, the nurses already frozen, made Zhou Yi instantly think of his sister, and he immediately ran towards her medical room. The nurse was frozen by the strong cold air in just a moment. Zhou Yi broke through layers of ice. Seeing Zhou Wen in front of him, he was furious. Above Zhou Yun hovered an ice dragon, and the instigator of all this was the ice dragon itself. But the creature's eyes held an intelligence that suggested it was merely following orders. Orders from someone who wanted Zhou Yun dead. And the instigator of all this was the ice dragon itself. Zhou Yi was about to take action, but was immediately stopped by a healer. Zhou Yi then halted his attack, and ran over to ask her what was going on. Rashly hurting it might cause Zhou Yun to get hurt. As for this ice dragon, it appeared when Zhou Yun's cold condition erupted. Now I can only suppress the coldness to this floor. What about my sister? What should we do? My abilities are limited. This is beyond my control. But something far more sinister was stirring beneath the surface. Something that would change everything Zhou Yi thought he knew about his sister's condition. Zhou Yi knew this couldn't continue. Thus, he thought of a way to save his sister. System: allocate all skill points to slow regeneration. With a large number of skill points added, slow regeneration was upgraded to level 10. Without hesitation, Zhou Yi started using slow regeneration. The healing effect of Zhou Yi's slow regeneration surprised the healer because it was even stronger than her own healing techniques. Sister Qing, go quickly and find Director Zhan. Ask him to bring a high-level priest. Tell him that if he helps me, I will do one thing for him unconditionally in the future. After a moment of stunned silence, the healer immediately ran to find Director Jia. Little did they know, Director Jia had been watching from the shadows all along, and his intentions were anything but pure. Facing this tricky cold air, Zhou Yi couldn't help but feel alarmed, because the coldness was so terrifying that it could even affect the environment. Even with his full effort using slow regeneration, he could barely maintain it. During the prolonged healing, Zhou Yi's mana gradually depleted, and he himself was about to be frozen. But he continued to persevere. He couldn't give up. He had to hold on until the priest arrived. Just then, a green bead flew towards him. But instead of attacking him, it attacked the ice dragon. The terrifying bead continuously attacked the ice dragon, and Zhou Yun showed a pained expression, as she felt very uncomfortable. Seeing this, Zhou Yi shouted, "Stop!" The response was a green bead that knocked Zhou Yi away. But as he struggled to his feet, he realized the true horror. This was no rescue attempt, but the beginning of something far more deadly. A female priest had arrived. But this person was not here to kill him, but a high-level priest summoned by Director Zhan. Knowing the urgency of the situation, the priest wasted no more words, and immediately struck the ice dragon on the head. Following that, she conjured a mysterious rune out of thin air. And at her command, the runes moved, quickly binding the ice dragon tightly. The next second, the priest's eyes lit up with a magic circle, and then she struck the ice dragon, which was instantly sent back into its body. Zhu Wen no longer felt discomfort, and her complexion gradually improved. But beneath her peaceful exterior, ancient powers were already beginning to stir. powers that would soon demand a terrible price. Having recovered, Zhou Yi immediately asked the priest, "How is my sister?" "Are you the famous Zhou Yi?" she said, as the surrounding cold air was gradually dispelled by her. "My name is Choi Lie Na, a level 35 secondary awakened priest. Coldness overflowing, condensing into a solid form, your sister's condition are signs of bloodline awakening." This greatly surprised Zhou Yi, who had always thought his sister had a strange disease. As for bloodline awakening, it is a unique awakening method specific to foreign races. For the past 200 years, players using a foreign race married human, and after their blood got diluted over the generations, they gradually lost those traits and powers. Except for a special condition: bloodline awakening. Bloodline awakening has its pros and cons. If your sister successfully awakens, it means she can control the power of other races, and her level and learning ability will also be multiplied. But if it fails, at best she might be paralyzed, at worst she could die on the spot. What the priest didn't mention was that the awakening process would attract something ancient and hungry, something that had been waiting centuries for this exact moment. Your sister's awakening bloodline seems to be a rare freezing bloodline. As long as her body can withstand it, she can complete the awakening. This means you need to improve her constitution. But as far as I know, there is only one treasure called the Freezing Lotus that can change her constitution. Remember, Zhou Yi, your sister only has 3 months. Once this time passes, her bloodline will no longer be suppressible. And if you haven't found the Freezing Lotus by then, you will have to use a great sealing skill to seal her bloodline. However, the cost is that she will always be an ordinary person from then on. Several days later, the major media raced to report on one thing. Yes, it was about Zhou Yi being the top martial scholar of the exam. Zhou Yi's exam results are out. Headline: Zhou Yi's scores shock the entire province. Whose home does Zhou Yi, the top martial scholar of the exam, belong to? All the major news outlets competed for traffic in reporting this, and the government continuously held press conferences. Meanwhile, people in the streets and alleys were all talking about Zhou Yi because of his powerful class and strong abilities. They were very surprised, and what shocked them even more was that Zhou Yi seemed to have no weaknesses, as if he were a pentagonal war god. But unknown to the celebrating masses, a secret organization had already marked Zhou Yi for elimination, and they were closing in fast. In a luxurious villa, a red-haired man was watching the video of Zhou Yi's exam battles. He didn't expect that Zhou Yi's clearance record was 20 seconds faster than his, which made him take a great interest in Zhou Yi. "Dare to take my honor away. He's courting death." As he spoke, a violent explosion sounded next to him. The casual strike of the red-haired man was so powerful. Zhou Yi was still reviewing the information sent by the government. Following that, Secretary Zhao also made a call. Probably because he learned that Zhou Yi had become the top martial scholar of the exam, the government planned to add an extra 5 million and a luxury mansion as a reward. This was within Zhou Yi's expectations. Subsequently, Zhou Yi saw several admission officers. "Hello, student Zhou Yi. I am an admissions officer from Rongyang University." But what Zhou Yi couldn't see was the sinister smile playing at the corners of the officer's mouth. A smile that promised danger beyond imagination. "I remember Rongyang University said Zhou Yi was too arrogant. How about that? Now they come specially to recruit Zhou Yi. Student Zhou Yi, Zhao Tianfu, has been fired from Rongyang University. If you enter our school, we will give you 4 million yuan. No matter how much you offer, I will double it. Zhou Yi, Modu University wants you." "You want him? I from Qingjing University do not agree." During the conversation, the teacher from Qingjing University took Zhou Yi flying into the sky. Another school's admission officer also came. Teachers from the top 3 elite universities in the country all came. Student Zhou Yi, Qingjing University has nothing but cultivation resources for 4 years in Qingjing University. Every year, Modu University will give you 1 A-grade resource and a set of gold-level equipment. Student Zhou Yi, Sukang University has abundant resources. As long as you are strong enough, even S-grade resources are available. Moreover, our Sukang University has won first place in the freshman competition in recent years. Yet beneath these generous offers lurked a deadly secret, one that would put Zhou Yi's life in mortal peril the moment he stepped foot on campus. From the attitudes of the other 2 admissions officers, Sukang University indeed seems to be the best choice for nurturing newcomers. The resources of all 3 universities are very good, but Sukang University is still the most suitable for Zhou Yi. At this moment, the 3 teachers were waiting for Zhou Yi's response. "I choose Sukang University." Sukang University's strength is respected and more suitable for Zhou Yi as his abilities have been improving very quickly. Immediately, the teacher from Sukang University took out a special admission contract for Zhou Yi, which surprised him for a moment because she used magic without a wand, proving she was a high-level mage. Through a conversation, Zhou Yi learned that she was a level 42 second awakened mage and under 30 years old. Zhou Yi signed his name while his fighting spirit was ignited, thinking that Sukang University must have many geniuses and extraordinary talents. Once Zhou Yi finished writing his name, the contract was established, which also meant that Zhou Yi was now a new student at Sukang University. But as the ink dried on the contract, ancient runes began to glow beneath the surface, binding Zhou Yi to a fate far more sinister than mere enrollment. Student Zhou Yi, you only have 1 week. In a week, I will come to pick you up for enrollment. As for why enroll so early, it's because the sooner you start, the sooner you can improve your strength. A week later, Zhou Yi brought Zhou Yun to the mansion. Zhou Yun was amazed by the luxurious mansion provided by the government. With all its high technology, it was indeed very luxurious. Just as Secretary Zhao was about to leave, Zhou Yi suddenly called out to him, "My sister's health is still not very good. Please take good care of her." "It would be my honor." Today is also the day Zhou Yi starts university, and teacher Su from Sukang University was already waiting early. After giving his reminders to his sister, Zhou Yi got into the car, feeling reluctant to leave Zhou Yun since this was his first time traveling far. As the car pulled away, Zhou Yun collapsed to her knees, blood streaming from her eyes. The countdown to her transformation had begun. Just as he turned his head back, the speed of the car shocked him, as the car was flying, speeding into the teleportation portal. In no time, they arrived at Sukang University. Even Zhou Yi hadn't expected Sukang University to be so powerful, even having their own teleportation portal. What shocked him even more were the mountains so high they seemed to touch the sky, and a gate like the southern gate of heaven, which surprised Zhou Yi because it was so immense. Zhou Yi arrived at Sukang University, marking the start of his university life. Soon after, teacher Su led Zhou Yi to register. Suddenly, a figure flew past him. But this was no ordinary student altercation. It was the first sign of the bloodbath that was about to engulf the entire university. From the flying posture, it was clear this person had been thrown. The one who threw him was a young girl with a slender figure and silver-white hair. "Don't bother me again. Otherwise, next time it won't just be this one kick." It turns out he was beaten up after a failed flirtation attempt. Zhu Yi noticed the magic patterns on the girl, confirming she had a demonic bloodline. Many of our university's teachers and students are from different races. Don't show any unusual expressions when you see them. Although my father was killed by demons, I don't hold a grudge against all demons. As long as they side with humanity, I won't be hostile towards them. Teacher Su conjured a student ID out of thin air. This student card belonged to Zhou Yi, recording his serial number, credits, and basic information. He noticed his serial number was 001. But what Zhou Yi didn't know was that this number made him the primary target of an ancient curse that had been dormant in the university for decades. At Sukang University, the serial number indicates strength. The lower the number, the stronger the individual. 001 also meant that Zhou Yi was the strongest among this year's freshmen. Through teacher Su's narration, Zhou Yi learned that in the future, many people might challenge him to take his place. But Zhou Yi is not afraid. His only fear is that his opponents might be too weak. Teacher Su introduced the score system. At Sukang University, as long as you have enough scores, you can buy any resource you want. There are 2 ways to earn scores. One is to take on score missions and earn the corresponding scores upon completion. The other is to enter the Earth and Heaven rankings, earning scores each month based on your ranking. Teacher Su's introduction gave Zhou Yi a good understanding of Sukang University. Immediately after, Teacher Su talked about the 3 realms of Sukang University. But she deliberately omitted the 4th realm, the one where students enter and never return, their screams echoing through the night. The first is the Goblin Dungeon. Entry levels range from 17 to 21. The second is the Distorted Forest. Entry levels range from 23 to 26. The third is Purgatory. Entry levels range from 28 to 31. At Sukang University, only the strong have absolute say, while the weak have no access to resources. Zhou Yi was moved. He again felt that he had come to the right place, where he could fully utilize his talents. As they walked, he met his fellow freshmen. Unlike Zhou Yi, they were led on their tour by upperclassmen. They also noticed this and found it puzzling, as their groups of a dozen or so were led by upperclassmen. while Zhou Yi was alone with a teacher. Of course, some students knew that in previous years, the top special admission student would always be personally handled by a specific teacher, a special treatment for being number one. Everyone was immediately shocked and began asking about Zhou Yi's background. What they didn't realize was that their innocent questions had just marked them all for death by the university's most dangerous secret society. Zhou Yi from Sukang District, the top scholar, a level 13 Saint Knight. At this revelation, everyone was stunned, as they did not know much about Zhou Yi. In their minds, a Saint Knight was a support class. A support class becoming ranked 001, it's impossible. Even the demonic bloodline girl became interested in Zhou Yi. But to the red-haired man standing aside, he felt uneasy. He believed he was the one who should be noticed. I think this first place is just a fake. Chu Yi heard his words. I, Lu Jing, level 13. Punishment Knight, ranked 038, challenge you. Do you dare accept? Don't be impulsive. But it was already too late. Liu Jing's challenge had awakened something that had been slumbering in the shadows, something that thrived on conflict and bloodshed. But Liu Jing, already fired up, wouldn't listen to the senior that was warning him and approached with determination. So you want to challenge me? Why should I accept? If you win, I'll give you 100 scores. Zhou Yi knew this was an opportunity to set an example. Otherwise, more people like this would come challenging him in the future. 100 scores is too little. 300 scores. If you don't even have 300 scores, then I'm walking away. Liu Jing was scared, as 300 scores was pretty much all he had. If he lost, he would be unable to make any moves in the university. But Liu Jing's gaze unintentionally drifted towards demonic bloodline girl, feeling jealous as the girl's eyes were fixed on Zhou Yi. A strong jealousy overcame his fear. And thus, Liu Jing agreed to Zhou Yi's bet. Zhou Yi smiled. He was actually worried Liu Jing might not accept. But beneath his confident exterior, Zhou Yi sensed a malevolent presence watching from the crowd, something that wasn't entirely human. After all, who wouldn't want free scores? One move. If you can withstand 3 moves from me, consider it my loss. After Teacher Su explained the challenge rules, the battle between Liu Jing and Zhou Yi was about to begin. Liu Jing was very fast, reaching above Zhou Yi in just a moment. His strongest move, Blood Slash, aimed at Zhou Yi. But in Zhou Yi's eyes, it was too slow. After dodging the attack with just a knee kick, Liu Jing was sent flying. The battle between the two was brief and swift. This is the strength of ranked 001. Just one move and he defeated a peer of genius. After observing, an upperclassman found out that Liu Jing had 5 broken ribs and had passed out. Afterward, according to the rules, Teacher Su transferred Liu Jing's 300 scores to Zhou Yi. Yet as the transaction completed, a sinister countdown began. Zhou Yi had just triggered the university's most deadly trial, one that would test far more than his fighting skills. The demonic bloodline girl watching the battle was stunned. This was simply not a fight between equals, but Zhou Yi's strength brought her more excitement. Student Zhou Yi, can I have a match with you? Zhou Yi was also eager to fight. After discovering that she possessed legacy equipment, he gladly accepted, as he wanted to see how strong a person with a demonic bloodline could be. Thus, an intense battle was about to begin. Zhou Yi immediately summoned the Mystic Light Warhammer from the system. And at the same time, Li Dongsheng, a captain of the Aurora Club, also noticed the commotion here. As the countdown began, the demonic bloodline girl unleashed Shadow Slash, rushing towards Zhou Yi at high speed. But something was wrong. Her eyes suddenly flashed with an unnatural darkness, as if something else was controlling her movements. Zhou Yi did not show weakness, meeting her with a strike of his warhammer. The two quickly collided, lifting dust into the air. With that strike, the two were evenly matched. The demonic bloodline girl, not daring to be careless, immediately used her demonic slash, imbuing her longsword with the terrifying power of thunder and lightning. After the clash, Zhou Yi laughed, as he had met the first person who could fight him head-on. Zhou Yi, with fiery battle intent, charged towards the demonic bloodline girl, their strengths undoubtedly powerful. Astonishing everyone watching, just the turbulence from the battle was making the barrier creak loudly. But unbeknownst to the spectators, each crack in the barrier was releasing something far more dangerous than simple battle energy. The spectators were amazed. Was this really just 2 students fighting? Everyone thought they were evenly matched. But Li Dongsheng, who was level 29, knew that Zhou Yi was far stronger than the demonic bloodline girl. Because every strike from Zhou Yi suppressed the demonic bloodline girl, forcing her to dodge every terrifying attack. But it was all coming to an end. Because all the previous fighting was just Zhou Yi warming up. He was using his true strength against the demonic bloodline girl, with just the aura leaking from him being like an insurmountable mountain, bringing her an oppressive pressure that made it hard to breathe. As the spear of victory formed at Zhou Yi's fingertips, yet in the depths of the university's foundations, ancient seals began to crack, seals that had contained horrors beyond imagination for centuries. It then swiftly flew towards the demonic bloodline girl, who dodged the attack with her agile speed. But Zhou Yi had already figured out her combat pattern. The next second, another spear of victory was already in front of her. But that wasn't all. Zhou Yi's warhammer instantly reached above her head. The demonic bloodline girl, frightened, closed her eyes, but Zhou Yi's attack did not fall. Seeing Zhou Yi's gentlemanly demeanor, her eyes seemed to light up. Instantly, the way she looked at Zhou Yi changed, her eyes now filled with admiration. "You didn't go all out? It's just a spar, of course I won't use my trump card." But what Zhou Yi didn't know was that by holding back, he had just failed the first test, and the consequences would be more terrifying than he could imagine. "I've seen your exam battle videos. You didn't go all out either. Student Zhou Yi, can we add each other as friends? We can have more matches in the future." Zhou Yi was stunned, as this was the first time a girl had asked for his contact information. The demonic bloodline girl added Zhou Yi's contact information, and she was delighted. Zhou Yi continued his tour with teacher Su. Subsequently, the teacher led him to the special recruits' dormitory, which turned out to be individual luxurious mansions. After arriving at the dormitory, Zhou Yi was very surprised. Zhou Yi learned an important piece of information, that 6 years ago, someone had seen the freezing lotus in the Tempest Mountain range. At that time, due to the presence of high-level monsters, it was not harvested. Upon learning this news, Zhou Yi immediately started researching online. From the information available online, he learned that the Tempest Mountain range were teeming with monsters and treasures, so much so that even tertiary awakened classes dared not venture deep. What the records didn't mention was the ancient evil that slumbered at the mountain's heart, an evil that had been waiting for someone exactly like Zhou Yi. But Zhou Yi was determined to go, especially since he also had the system-rewarded Resurrection Cross, a life-saving item. After deciding, Zhou Yi planned to buy some skills and equipment in preparation for his journey. Looking at the array of Saint Knight skills available, he was tempted. And since he could learn skills below A-level for free, he chose to buy. With a set of forest suit added, he was ready to set out. Months later, Zhou Yi was still searching the Tempest Mountain range for the freezing lotus. At that moment, he noticed intense fighting ahead. Even from several kilometers away, Zhou Yi could sense the fierce battle. Driven by curiosity, he decided to see what was happening. In a mansion, the demonic bloodline girl was lying on her bed playing with her phone. "Hello, I am Jiang Churan." Out for a while. This was the chat interface with Zhou Yi. She also learned that Zhou Yi was going to the Tempest Mountain range. Jiang Churan hugged her pillow tightly, seemingly pondering something. But outside her window, a shadow moved unnaturally, and glowing red eyes watched her every move. Just then, her phone rang. She picked it up and saw it was a call from her best friend. "I met a guy, he's kind of special." "How special?" "He seems immune to my charm ability. His willpower is very strong." "That's interesting." "I've decided. I'm going to the Tempest Mountain range." Jiang Churan's sudden decision startled her friend, causing her to smear her nail polish. In the Tempest Mountain range, a car was speeding along. The next second, it hit a demon. The demon was sent flying but wasn't injured, showing the strength of such a beast. A girl got out of the car and threw several explosives on the ground. When the demons stepped on them, terrifying explosions erupted from beneath their feet, enveloping them in a fierce blast. But through the smoke and fire, something far more dangerous was already stalking them, something that viewed the demons as mere appetizers. But it was ineffective. Spirit summoning Iceness A. Barrier made of ice blocked the demon's attack. In another direction, a demon tried to sneak attack from behind, but was immediately suppressed by the gunner in the car with fierce firepower, pushing the demon back instantly. As her Gatling gun turned, demons on the other side were also swept back. As the gunner shouted, a swordsman seized the opportunity and instantly delivered a combo to the demon. With their nearly perfect coordination, 4 demons were successfully killed. Yet their victory celebration was cut short as the ground beneath their feet began to crack. Something immense and ancient was rising from the depths below. But a summoner nearby noticed another threat and immediately deployed a barrier in front of the car. Terrifying flames brushed past the swordsman, but those on the car were not so lucky. The thick barrier could not withstand it. The flames were too strong, burning a path through the ground with their immense power. At this time, everyone in the car was severely injured, a wave of panic washing over them. They felt very desperate because they had already used up all their trump cards against the initial 4 demons. Surrounded by such a multitude of demons, they were praying in their hearts, hoping not to be annihilated. In this life and death moment, Zhou Yi rode a white wolf from afar, Sacred Storm. But as his power blazed forth, it sent a signal across the dimensional barriers, a signal that would bring forth horrors beyond the mortal realm. A holy and luminous cross blocked the demon's attack, but it wasn't over. Another cross appeared behind the demon, and several crosses surrounded the demons, spinning to form a terrifying storm. Even the demons were continuously howling from such explosive damage. The light converges, the storm falls. Countless beams of light energy converged, and a sharply pointed holy sword slowly descended from the sky, plunging directly into the center of the demon horde. The combination of 2 terrifying skills blasted the demons into debris, with merely the aftershocks burning everything around to ashes. Zhou Yi patted the white wolf, and bone-chilling ice sprayed from the wolf's mouth, extinguishing the remaining fires the next moment. But in the sudden silence, something far more terrifying stirred. The ice had awakened something that should have remained frozen for eternity. The Blue Phoenix team was somewhat dazed and also relieved. Seeing them heavily injured, Zhou Yi immediately helped them heal. Zhou Yi recognized them, the Blue Phoenix team, one of the top 3 teams in the school. They never expected to be rescued by a freshman. Junior Zhou Yi, although you are very strong, this place is very dangerous. Let's go back together. Zhou Yi also decided to return immediately, as he had been searching the outer areas for a month. Moreover, the freshman competition was in 3 days, so it was time to go back. After receiving Zhou Yi's response, the Blue Phoenix team members looked at the girl beside them. Yet unbeknownst to them all, their every move was being watched by something that hungered for their departure, something that needed them gone to complete its awakening. She took a deep breath, and then unleashed her skills to their full extent. Immediately after, a pile of scraps was reassembled into a spider-shaped mech. With a call from the girl, everyone entered the interior of the mech and started on the way back. Zhou Yi learned that these demons were likely to have escaped from a dimensional crack that releases demons. However, Zhou Yi was puzzled because, to his knowledge, this area was monitored by a mage tower, which was there to prevent monsters from surging through the mountains and attacking cities. And there were also many troops stationed here. Soon, the senior explained it to him. Yes, there are, but these monsters are too low level. What he didn't dare tell Zhou Yi was that the mage tower had gone silent 3 days ago, and no one knew why. Zhou Yi's expression became serious. Are platinum demons in their 20s and 30s considered low level? The mage tower mainly monitors the movements of epic and legendary monsters. Anything below this level would not be detected by the mage tower. Even though I have been adventuring here for a long time, I still can't understand why there are so many demons. Just then, a towering purple lightning bolt appeared in the distance, and Zhou Yi was very familiar with this energy. Suddenly, he then rode the white wolf quickly towards the source, because this energy was from Jiang Churan. At the same time, Jiang Churan was in fierce combat with 20 platinum demons. The reason she was so powerful was that she used a forbidden skill, but there was a time limit. If this continues, she will be overwhelmed and killed by the demons. But what neither she nor Zhou Yi realized was that these demons weren't attacking to kill her. They were herding her towards something far worse. But she has no choice but to keep resisting the demons' attacks. The demons continue to charge at Jiang Churan fearlessly, and she is not about to surrender. She will fight to the last moment. Suddenly, a terrifying energy began to gather in the sky. The next second, countless golden lightning bolts precisely struck the demons. The demons were annihilated on the spot by this power. The demons that were just attacking her were now turned to ash. The sudden turn of events left her stunned in place. Turning her head, she saw Zhou Yi riding a white wolf from a distance. Zhou Yi shouted for her to get out of the way because a demon in the distance was preparing to deliver a fatal blow to Jiang Churan. But as he called out this warning, neither of them noticed the shadow moving silently behind them, its eyes glowing with malevolent hunger. The already terrifying demons suddenly went berserk, doubling their strength. However, what was more problematic was the large number of demons. Jiang Churan immediately yelled for Zhou Yi to run while she stayed behind to cover his retreat. In her eyes, Zhou Yi's strength was definitely not enough to defeat this demon. But Zhou Yi scooped up Jiang Churan, his eyes showing not a hint of fear. In the next second, the Berserk Demon's terrifying strike came. Zhou Yi dodged the attack and held nothing back, unleashing a punishment of light towards that area. A terrifying wide-range attack leaving no place for the demons to hide. For a moment, Zhou Yi understood the joy of being a mage. However, the demons that survived charged at Zhou Yi again. Yet something far more sinister stirred in the depths of the forest, something that made even these demons seem like mere insects in comparison. Soon, Zhou Yi found himself surrounded by a large group of demons. He sensed there were a total of 180 demons, and only an area attack could annihilate them. But they were too spread out, so they needed to be drawn together. Zhou Yi shared his plan with Jiang Churen, healing her and stacking many buffs on her. Once everything was ready, Zhou Yi began to implement his plan. To draw them together, he had to get close to them. Seeing the approaching human, the demons immediately released energy waves. But their casting time was too long, and Zhou Yi had already reached their faces. From a distance, Jiang Churan couldn't help but marvel at Zhou Yi's terrifying strength. However, what she didn't know was that this was just the beginning. High above them, unseen wings cut through the clouds as an ancient evil awakened from its slumber, drawn by the scent of battle and blood. While she was distracted, a demon attacked right in front of her. The white wolf immediately bit fiercely at the demon, while Jiang Chu fought another demon. At the same time, Zhou Yi, with his formidable strength, killed several demons in one go. There were many demons, and soon one got behind him, its sharp sword reaching Zhou Yi's neck. Fortunately, Jiang Churen had noticed in time and prevented the demon's sneak attack from succeeding. Turning around, Zhou Yi saw Jiang Churen continuously luring enemies, and knew the time was right. He immediately cast a protection of the holy light towards Jiang Churan and the White Wolf. But the protection spell flickered ominously, as if something was interfering with its divine power. Something that should not exist in this realm, creating an indestructible golden barrier around Jiang Churan. First, it was Zhou Yi's area of effect skill. Holy Cross. A sacred and powerful golden cross appeared behind Zhou Yi, continuously attacking the group of demons with holy fire. In a moment, a large part of the demon horde was wiped out. Inside the barrier, Jiang Churan's eyes sparkled at the power of Zhou Yi. But the battle was not over, as there was still a large group of demons. However, Zhou Yi's power was far from limited. The light converges, the storm falls. This was Zhou Yi's second large area skill, Sacred Storm. A brilliant golden sword made of holy light slowly descended from the sky. As it descended, the very air began to crack and splinter, reality itself seeming to bend under the weight of something watching from beyond. Encircling the entire demon horde in the center, a golden tornado appeared among the demons, and each strike of the storm was able to annihilate a demon on the spot. Even if the demons tried to flee, they could not escape the storm's attack. Zhou Yi's true strength was displayed at this moment. The seniors watching from a distance were stunned. Just the turbulence of the battle was enough to awe them because Zhou Yi was too formidable. Ordinary people struggled to kill even one demon, but Zhou Yi alone had annihilated hundreds. This also made them want to befriend Zhou Yi. At this moment, the aftermath of the battle had not yet subsided. All members of the Blue Phoenix team rushed over, obviously to help Zhou Yi. Yet as they approached, the ground beneath their feet began to pulse with an unnatural rhythm, as if something massive stirred in the depths below. But the scene before them left them stunned. There were no more demons left. Only heaps of corpses remained. After killing this group of demons, Zhou Yi's level increased once again. After drinking a potion to heal his injuries, Zhou Yi returned to his peak condition. These large area skills consumed a lot of mana. Zhou Yi looked at his stat panel. Level, 18. Power, 114 plus 29. Speed, 122 plus 31 Constitution. 103 plus 26 Wisdom. 156 plus 39. Zhou Yi seemed not too surprised by leveling up twice consecutively. Unfortunately, there was a level limit to how much experience a class can receive, which limited the experience points he could have gotten. After annihilating 180 demons, the Blue Phoenix team slowly approached Zhou Yi. Originally, they intended to help Zhou Yi escape the danger, but they did not expect the battle would already be over. Having fought such a major battle, Jiang Churan was utterly exhausted. But their moment of relief shattered as a bone-chilling roar echoed across the battlefield, the sound of something that made the previous demons seem like mere scouts, especially since she had used a forbidden skill which naturally left her weakened. Zhou Yi, have you encountered any high-level demons? The highest was just level 23 gold. It seems there were no high-level demons. Hearing Zhou Yi's words, Su Qinglian fell into thought, because such a large scale of demons usually has a general. Realizing that something was amiss, they immediately planned to return to the base to resupply. Meanwhile, in a hidden bush, someone noticed that Zhou Yi was about to leave. Just as they were preparing to approach Zhou Yi to make his acquaintance, the next second, a terrifying aura immobilized them. A wave of fear surged through their hearts, because Zhou Yi and his companions were already enveloped by a barrier. More importantly, a white dragon emanating a terrifying pressure was flying towards Zhou Yi. The dragon's eyes held an intelligence far too ancient and malevolent for this world, and atop its back sat something that defied description. And atop that white dragon stood a demon. Urimas, a legendary demon. Just standing there, Urimas brought them an extreme sense of oppression. At the same time, the magic tower monitoring the Tempest Mountain range issued a strong alarm. The magic tower precisely detected Urimas's location, and the monitoring personnel immediately reported to the core. Emergency! A fourth-tier Otherworld invasion has been confirmed. Please have all members of the core immediately enter combat preparation. Upon hearing this message, the core members set aside their training and all orderly advanced towards the square. The logistics department was checking the number of magic cores to ensure sufficient supplies were available in the rear. All mages were locating Orimus's position, preparing to teleport the entire core nearby. Everyone in the core was ready in the magic circle, waiting for the mages to teleport. These individuals were all members of the Snow Dragon Corps, and at this moment, everyone in the Corps was waiting for instructions from their leader, Shuyu Zhou. My sword forges paths, my shield protects all. Let's move. But as they prepared to teleport, the magical readings began fluctuating wildly. Someone or something was sabotaging their rescue attempt. Shuyu Zhou's voice echoed across the square, greatly boosting the morale of the entire Corps. A few hours earlier, in a luxurious palace, Urimas stood before a group of demons and said, "Each one of you has been carefully selected by me. Yet now humans have killed hundreds of our kin. This is undoubtedly the greatest provocation to our clan." After hearing Urimas's words, the entire demon corps became excited. At that moment, the white dragon soared high, carrying the demon Urimas towards Zhou Yi, because it wanted to kill Zhou Yi personally. Just then, countless demons summoned by Urimas appeared, including many platinum and golden demons. Su Binglian knew through the evaluation technique that this was a legendary demon. Even faced with such a large number of demons, she was not afraid, because at that moment, she was still thinking about covering for Zhou Yi to escape. In her view, Zhou Yi is the most powerful genius she has ever seen. But hidden among Urimas's forces lurked something else, a presence so dark that even demons whispered its name in fear. All members of the Blue Phoenix team thought this way. For the future of humanity, they must stand up, because Zhou Yi was worth protecting with their lives. At that moment, a magic circle suddenly appeared in the sky, and soldiers clad in armor emerged from it. Zhang Churen was stunned looking at the magic circle. While all members of the Blue Phoenix team knew, this was the Snow Dragon Corps. All members were above level 30, and the leader was a powerful level 51. At this time, the demon Urimas laughed out loud. "Ants, your corps cannot save you." The corps, which should have landed in front of the demons, now appeared off course. After investigation by a high-level mage, it was found that this was a demon-kind large-scale barrier formation, Dark Firewall. To break through this barrier with force, the power of 2 core was needed. The barrier pulsed with malicious energy, and within its dark depths, shadowy figures moved with purpose unknown. The true masterminds behind this invasion were finally revealing themselves. Otherwise, they could only wait for it to naturally disperse 5 minutes from now. Knowing it would take 5 minutes to dissipate, Shuyu Zhou sighed, because he knew that everyone inside the barrier would die. He couldn't think of anyone who could withstand these demons. After the battle is over, notify their families to come and claim their remains. With the arrival of the demon Urimas, Zhou Yi's new accomplishment mission also arrived. The quest was to kill the legendary demon Urimas, and the reward was exceptionally rich. An S+ grade talent and a luck potion. Zhou Yi had been waiting for this accomplishment mission for a long time. Zhou Yi stepped forward from behind the Blue Phoenix team, a formidable aura slowly emanating from within him. Such a dense aura of holiness caught Urimas's attention. "It seems it was you who killed my people. To show my respect, I will make sure you die a painful death in the most brutal way." After speaking, The white dragon carrying Orima swiftly flew towards Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi, not daring to be careless, immediately summoned his weapon, while the white dragon held intense flames in its mouth, preparing to launch an attack at Zhou Yi. But as the flames gathered, reality itself seemed to waver around them. This battle would determine far more than anyone realized. The next second, terrifying flames burst forth from the white dragon's mouth, and Zhou Yi countered with a strike from his warhammer. Thus, the battle between Zhou Yi and Urimas had begun. The next second, the two attacks collided instantly. However, Zhou Yi's casual strike was incredibly powerful. Even the golden-level white dragon could not withstand it, and fell from the sky along with the legendary demon Orimus. But Zhou Yi quickly pressed the attack. Orimus swung his blade at Zhou Yi coming up behind him, but Zhou Yi was faster and instantly moved from behind the demon. Unfortunately, Zhou Yi's sneak attack was not successful. At this moment, Urimas was very puzzled. He couldn't understand how this human, apparently only level 18, could possess strength that can rival his own. Yet, as their battle raged, cracks began appearing in the very fabric of reality around them. Something was trying to break through from another dimension. Shu Yi also gained some understanding of him. Even Shu Yuzhou was astonished, because the power was comparable to a strike from a magic cannon. Quickly, Shu Yuzhou immediately inquired who this person was. If he were given a bit more time, just with this skill alone he could annihilate Urimas. At this time, Urimas was already severely injured. Even he hadn't expected Zhou Yi to be so powerful. But more than that, it was rage. Urimas felt it was a disgrace to demons, as no human had ever wounded it so. Fire Demon Legion, charge! Fire Curse Legion, cast your spells. From then on, Urimas was thoroughly enraged. The next second, countless demons prepared to attack Zhou Yi. At the same time, a group of curse specialist demons also began casting spells. As the curses took shape, they writhed and twisted in ways that defied natural law. These were not ordinary demon spells, but something far more ancient and forbidden. In an instant, numerous curses flew towards Zhou Yi, and hundreds of demons charged at him. While Urimas was healing his wounds, he thought Zhou Yi was just an 18-level Saint Knight who had used so many skills. His mana must be depleted by now, and they just needed to overwhelm him with numbers to kill him. After using the Divine Hand, Zhou Yi's mana was depleted. But Zhou Yi had another skill, a secret skill called Divine Summoning, which allowed him to borrow the formidable power of the God of Light. The cost was that he would be weakened for a while. The next second, a sacred golden beam of light burst from within Zhou Yi and shot into the sky, not only breaking through the demon's barrier, but also preventing any demons from getting close to the beam, even dispelling the curses attached to Zhou Yi. Seeing this, the demons could only stand dumbfounded. But in the distance, something stirred in response to Zhou Yi's divine summoning. An ancient enemy of the gods had sensed the holy power and was now awakening from its eternal slumber, while Urimas began to sense that something was amiss. At this moment, Zhou Yi bathed in golden energy, with mysterious runes revolving around him. The six-winged angel, granting him the power of the God of Light, scattered feathers that had a mysterious allure, irresistibly drawing the demons closer. But these seemingly ordinary feathers contained destructive power. The experienced Shu Yuzhou recognized it immediately. This is the Divine Summoning technique. He knew this was a top-level skill unique to divine classes, allowing the use of some of the corresponding deities' power. He had once seen a 58-level priest use it, where just one skill could restore an entire corps' wounds to their peak condition. It was because of this skill that their corps survived an attack by 3 demon legons during that war. By now, Urimas was terrified, as it recognized this top-level secret technique. But terror turned to desperate cunning as Urimas realized that if it could corrupt this divine power, it would gain enough strength to breach the barriers between worlds. It couldn't understand how a level 18 Saint Knight could harness the power of a deity. If Zhou Yi's ritual were completed, not just it, but the entire demon corps would be doomed. They had planned to kill Zhou Yi and then flee back to the demon realm, but now it seemed they had to hurry up and complete the construction of the magic circle, though at best it would take a minute. My children, now is the time for you to show your loyalty. All members of the Fire Demon Corps, follow my command and sacrifice everything to your Urimas immediately. Soon they sacrificed their lives to Urimas one after another, because in their eyes, helping Lord Urimas was their honor. So they all gave everything they had, allowing Urimas to absorb and become stronger. This was Urimas's plan. with so many demons, including many of the gold level. As the demonic essence flowed into Urimus, the very air around them began to darken and twist. This much concentrated evil energy was tearing holes in reality itself. Urimus kept absorbing furiously. Urimus's momentum continued to rise fiercely, and Zhou Yi was also completing the ritual. The six-winged angel's gaze turned icy cold. Truly a group of ugly and pitiful lower species. Saint Knight, I will bestow upon you the power of the God of Light. God said, let there be light. With one strike, Urimus was blasted to the ground. But Urimus did not die as it had completed the absorption. So many demons' essence directly took Urimus from level 23 to level 43. The terrifying pressure made people tremble. Urimus did not show weakness and also retaliated against Zhou Yi. But as Urimus reached its new peak of power, the ground beneath them began to crack and split. Something far beneath the earth was responding to the surge of demonic energy. A terrifying flame demon's roar of flames instantly blasted towards Zhou Yi, but this was not the end. A meteor-like boulder condensed in front of it. Even it could barely bear its weight. Because this is the strongest innate skill of the flame demon kind. Solar flare, condensing the fire element to the extreme, just the surface temperature can reach 15 million degrees Celsius. The next second, Urimus threw its final move at Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi knew he could not be careless. He concentrated all his power, and the surrounding light energy quickly gathered, forming a dazzling holy light shield in front of him. The solar flare struck the holy light shield, producing a deafening explosion sound. The huge shockwave spread out, even the ground trembled. As the aftermath of the explosion dissipated, Zhou Yi stood firm, with the holy light shield still shining. His gaze was resolute, showing no sign of backing down. The six-winged angel spread its wings behind him. Yet high above, the heavens themselves began to darken as if the gods were preparing for a judgment that would reshape the very foundations of this world, filling the entire area with the power of the God of Light. Seeing this, Aurimus's face showed an expression of disbelief. It had never thought that an 18-level Saint Knight could withstand its strongest attack. Zhou Yi knew it was the final moment of the battle. He raised his hand, and holy light converged on it, forming a dazzling beam. Heretic, in the name of the God of Light, I sentence you, death! The beam of light shot out suddenly, striking Aurimus's chest. Aurimus let out a piercing scream. The power of the gods is absolutely unmatched, and even Aurimus must perish under it. Because Aurimus was on the brink of death, the next second, Aurimus died, falling to the ground motionless. Zhou Yi's battle with Aurimus finally came to an end, and Zhou Yi was already exhausted. The next second, he fell from the sky. This is the price of the divine summoning. He fell into an unconscious state, unable to stay awake. But as Zhou Yi lost consciousness, none of them noticed the strange symbols that briefly appeared on Aurimus's corpse before fading away. The true mastermind's plan was only just beginning. He had already killed Urimus, and the people of the Snow Dragon Corps had arrived. When Zhou Yi's consciousness woke up again, he felt something pressing on his chest. Like sleep paralysis, clearly conscious but unable to move. In an instant, he sat up abruptly, took several deep breaths, because that feeling was too uncomfortable. Zhou Yi, you're awake. If I hadn't woken up, you might have suffocated me to death. Xiao Shuzan made a move that caught Shu Yeki off guard. Zhou Yi actually received a special reward from the beauty. Yet as they shared this moment of intimacy, neither noticed the dark figure watching from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an intelligence that suggested their troubles were far from over. Jiang Churan shyly walked away, and Zhou Yi was helpless towards Jiang Churan. Because he had been unconscious for 2 days, Zhou Yi missed the daily tasks, which made him feel regretful. The achievement reward arrived. S+ grade talent. Look at this name, a death resistance. It looks very strong. Zhou Yi had an idea. He forcefully stabbed himself, and the result? It healed in 2 seconds. This made Zhou Yi extremely happy. With this skill, Zhou Yi's ability to survive was also stronger. This time, there's another reward, the potion that can make one lucky. An S-tier lucky potion, a great treasure. Perhaps one day it will play a crucial role. Zhou Yi also noticed a skill. It was a divine skill. But unknown to Zhou Yi, his use of divine power had sent ripples across multiple realms. Powerful entities from the abyss were now aware of his existence and plotting their response. He quickly remembered. It was the skill granted by the gods at that time. increasing fire element capability, boosting himself and nearby allies by 20%. He didn't expect this skill to have been preserved, which made Zhou Yi even happier. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. The visitor was Wang Liang, the deputy commander of the Snow Dragon Corps. He had come, tasked with thanking Zhou Yi. Because Zhou Yi had helped them capture many demons and uncovered the demons' secrets, they planned to reward Zhou Yi as a token of gratitude from the Snow Dragon Corps. A dazzling array of treasures projected before him for Zhou Yi to choose from. The treasures of the Snow Dragon Corps were particularly remarkable, including even S-tier items. Zhou Yi immediately thought of one treasure. Vice Captain Wang, do you have the Freezing Lotus? But as Wang Liang searched for the item, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them through the window. Someone with intentions far darker than simple observation. As Wang Liang searched, the Freezing Lotus appeared before them. It could evolve into an ice body, enhancing affinity with ice elements. Its shape was absolutely it. This was the treasure for treating his sister. Wang Liang also sweated seeing the 100 million points cost, as it was equivalent to 3 years of his salary. But his hand did not stop. After all, he had promised Zhou Yi, and he must deliver. In a few days, the headquarters will send it over. If you're bored, I can arrange for someone to hunt demons with you. And I'll arrange some peers for you to increase your affinity with the course. Sorry, I need to return to school tomorrow for the freshman competition. Please send it to my dormitory. Wang Liang also forgot that Zhou Yi was still a freshman, which thwarted his plan. Zhou Yi didn't expect to get his hands on the Freezing Lotus so easily. His sister could be saved. Seeing that there was still time, Zhou Yi immediately decided to complete today's daily tasks. Yet as he prepared to leave, he couldn't shake the ominous feeling that obtaining the Freezing Lotus had been almost too easy, as if unseen forces were maneuvering him toward some greater trap. At the same time, in the room of the Blue Phoenix team, the members were seeking Su Qing Lian. They came hoping Su Qing Lian could persuade Zhou Yi to join their team. Although Su Qing Lian doubted it would work, she still wanted to try. She went to see Zhou Yi, who was also somewhat surprised. Su Senior, do you need something from me? Zhou Yi Jr., would you like to join our team? Zhou Yi was stunned for a moment, but he quickly declined. I see. My teammates will be sad for a while. By the way, thank you for saving us in the Tempest Mountain Range. After saying that, she kissed Zhou Yi. As their lips met, neither realized that this seemingly innocent moment had been witnessed by eyes filled with jealous rage. Eyes that belonged to someone who would stop at nothing to eliminate Zhou Yi. After greeting him, she left, and Zhou Yi was already dumbfounded. He didn't expect that girls these days could be so bold. Meanwhile, in a certain conference room, Shu Yuzhou loudly said, "This investigation has found that the demons have mastered the method to travel through medium-sized cracks. Are you sure this is true? Do you understand what this means?" "I do, but the investigation has proven everything true, and there's ample evidence. Moreover, we've found that only monsters below level 30 can cross over." Receiving Shu Yuzhou's affirmative reply, he began giving orders. Senator Yang, notify all the legions nationwide to inspect every medium-sized cracks. Senator Zhang, attend the international conference and share this intelligence. Let's see their reaction. But as they discussed their plans, none of them realized that their meeting room had been infiltrated. Every word they spoke was being transmitted to forces that would use this intelligence for devastatingly evil purposes. Captain Shu, you're saying this intel is thanks to an 18-year-old? Shu Yuzhou did not hide it, sharing all information about Zhou Yi with them. After hearing Shu Yuzhou's words, he was stunned, and he was not the only one. The others were equally surprised. A genius from Sukang District? Could he be a descendant of the Frozen Zhou family? A Saint Knight ranking in the first place, that is indeed rare. Senator Wang, when you return, please help us check out this genius, said the speaker to the headmaster of Sukang University, Wang Hui. Shu Yuzhou saw all this and knew that with the attention of these VIPs, Zhou Yi was likely on a fast track to success. A day later, inside Sukang University, robots were busy announcing everywhere. The freshman competition begins at 10 o'clock today. All freshmen are urged to gather at the field promptly. This freshman competition relates to the resource distribution for all new students. But hidden among the spectators, assassins from a rival academy had already infiltrated the competition grounds, their orders clear. Eliminate Zhou Yi before he could grow any stronger, and also coincides with the recruitment period for the various houses. Therefore, housemasters from each house have gathered here. At this time, the housemaster of the House of War, Wu Mang, began to speak. This freshman competition has two phases. The first is the Secret Realm Challenge. The second is Free Challenge. As Wu Mang explained the rules of the grand competition, Teacher Su started looking for Zhou Yi, but to no avail. Meanwhile, the students below were all discussing Zhou Yi as they too noticed his absence. I was hoping to defeat you in this competition, but it seems you didn't even have the courage to show up. How boring. All right, students, the grand competition is about to begin. Please get ready. The Silver Secret Realm, open, Wu Mang shouted loudly. The next second, a door appeared out of nowhere in front of the students. Seeing this door, the students' excitement grew as they couldn't wait to start the battle. Yet as the portal stabilized, dark energy began seeping through its edges. Something had corrupted the secret realm from within, transforming what should have been a test into a deadly trap. This freshman competition concerns your future. Give it your all. Watching this group of spirited students, Wu Mang couldn't help but sigh. Youth is wonderful. He noticed that 001 and 003 were not present. Housemaster, they went to the Tempest Mountain Range earlier and haven't arrived yet. What's going on? The freshman competition is crucial for their future. How can they be late for such an important event? Wu Mang said angrily. Teacher Su quickly tried to explain to Wu Mang, but Wu Mang seemed not to listen and even wanted to rank the latecomers at the bottom. Just then, Zhou Yi, carrying Jiang Churan, hurried over. With a flash of light, Zhou Yi entered the secret realm, and his desire for battle grew even stronger. As a combat fanatic, he hoped that this secret realm would allow him to enjoy himself and fully exert his strength. Meanwhile, Jiang Churan was already fighting with a giant bear. But as she battled, the bear's eyes began glowing with an unnatural intelligence. These weren't ordinary training constructs, but something far more sinister lurking within the realm. And a red-haired man was also fighting vigorously. Suddenly, the screen switched to Zhou Yi's perspective. The golden halo and the huge warhammer caught the attention of all the housemasters. Even more terrifying was that Zhou Yi was not just for show. The mere display of a bit of his strength shocked Rongqi especially, because Zhou Yi only took 5 seconds to pass the first level. This student is extraordinary. He managed to kill the giant bear instantly with just an auxiliary skill from a halo. Yes, the burning effect from the halo is astonishing. The damage from the skill is high for many reasons. I can't make a final judgment just from this battle, but I have never seen that halo skill of Zhou Yi before. This kid is a bit mysterious. At this time, Zhou Yi was still continuously clearing stages. With a wide-range skill, Punishment of Light, he annihilated 200 giant bears and successfully cleared the second stage in less than 2 minutes. Facing the attack of the bear leader next, he was not at all panicked, simply releasing a Spear of Victory to blast the leader on the spot. Yet as the bear leader fell, its dying roar seemed to awaken something deeper in the realm, something that had been waiting centuries for a challenger worthy of its true power. Given his status as the first to clear, he will receive a special reward. Moreover, Zhou Yi's speed in clearing has set a new historical record. Not only did he receive a skill book, but he also got a bonus talent. This talent surprised Zhou Yi. He didn't expect such a simple secret realm to grant a talent. Afterward, Zhou Yi began analyzing the 3 talents. Strong protection is suitable for tanks, so it isn't much useful to him. The effect of Focus Halo is greater than Rapid Steps because, in battle, reaction speed is especially important, and it also plays a significant role in preventing skills from being interrupted. After choosing Focus Halo, an option appeared in front of Zhou Yi, asking whether to open the additional levels. The repulsive aura coming from behind the door piqued Zhou Yi's interest, as he was just warming up and had not yet enjoyed himself. After watching Zhou Yi's performance, Rongqi marveled at Zhou Yi's terrifying combat awareness, and Wu Mang, who had been somewhat dissatisfied with Zhou Yi, greatly increased his fondness. Even the housemaster of the elemental house, Chou Huayang, was amazed at Zhou Yi's astonishing elemental control, and the housemaster of the armament house, Rongqi, was shocked by Zhou Yi's all-around strength. At this point, the housemasters of the 5 major houses began to vie for him, with countless reasons for recruitment emerging. Just then, the headmaster appeared. His target was Zhou Yi. Meanwhile, Zhou Yi had already entered the additional stage. The thick, evil aura emanating from the throne disgusted him. Where there is light, there must be darkness. If there are benevolent gods, there must also be evil gods. Unlike other gods, worshipping them requires the sacrifice of one's life and soul, and because of their evil, they are banned by all countries. However, people often take risks because evil gods can grant greater power. Not only humans, but other beings can also worship evil gods. Thus, without a doubt, this is a creature that worships an evil god. Upon seeing Zhou Yi's arrival, it no longer hid, and an evil aura burst forth because it also sensed a disgusting aura on Zhou Yi. The bear monster ghost burst out with an amazing aura, vowing to devour Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi's fighting spirit also inflated, and he immediately taunted the giant bear. "Come at me if you dare!" Following that, Zhou Yi took the initiative to attack. A sacred storm targeted the bear monster ghost, but the bear considered Zhou Yi weak and didn't take him seriously. However, as the storm approached, it only then realized the terror of this storm. But it was too late. Its figure gradually disappeared in the fierce storm, but the battle did not end. The bear monster ghost that had been killed somehow revived, and Zhou Yi sensed the bear monster ghost's resurrection at that moment. Moreover, the resurrected bear monster ghost's aura was even more formidable. Therefore, Zhou Yi held nothing back, preparing to unleash his trump card Divine Hand. A massive golden hand from the heavens fiercely slammed the bear monster ghost into the ground, with just the residual shockwaves being terrifying. While the bear monster ghost hit directly by Divine Hand screamed miserably, having no strength to counterattack. This made the demonized white bear even angrier, wishing it could flay Zhou Yi alive. But Zhou Yi was fearless. Zhou Yi wildly used Divine Hand against the bear monster ghost, bombarding the bear monster ghost with one ultimate move after another, the terrifying power causing hearts to tremble. As the dust settled, the battle had ended, with the bear monster ghost turned to ash. With this clearance, Zhou Yi's level increased by 1, and he also obtained a piece of gold-grade equipment. So much for unlimited revival, it's all fake. In the face of absolute power, any scheme or trick is futile. The reason the bear monster ghost could resurrect was likely related to a subtle, frenzied power. This power felt somewhat similar to what is sensed while he was using the divine summoning skill, likely the remnant of some evil god's power. Therefore, after completely depleting this power, the bear monster ghost could no longer resurrect. And this is also the only way to clear the additional stage. Just keep killing the bear monster ghost until it's done. Meanwhile, the other students were still fiercely fighting the white bears, including the redhead young man. He was currently battling the bear monster ghost, fortunately having leveled up twice recently, which significantly increased his strength. With a bit more time, he would be able to completely defeat the bear monster ghost. On the other side, Wu Keqing immediately recognized that this was the S-grade skill, Divine Hand. Watching Zhou Yi's figure, each housemaster was marveling at how monstrous Zhou Yi was, even starting to suspect whether he might be the son of some major figure. At that moment, Headmaster Wang Hui interrupted them. But what was more surprising now was that they discovered Zhou Yi's level was actually 19. It's important to note that at the time of the martial exam, Zhou Yi was only level 13, and now he had jumped 6 levels, truly terrifying. Regarding this, Wang Hui also told them that Zhou Yi had previously hunted monsters in the Tempest Mountain Range. Before entering the secret realm, he was already level 18. He had single-handedly annihilated the entire Flame Demon Legion. So, for him, the freshman competition was merely child's play. If not for the competition being about resource distribution, he probably wouldn't have participated. Following Zhou Yi, the second student finally came out, and it was the redhead young man. Seeing Zhou Yi in front of him, he was stunned for a moment, because he couldn't believe someone was faster than him and assumed that Zhou Yi had given up on the additional challenge and came out early. The redhead young man came from one of the 8 great families of Jiangning, and, as a genius of one of these families, he certainly didn't believe he could lose to someone from the barren north. At that moment, another student appeared from behind the teleportation portal. It was Jiang Chu Ran. Zhou Yi quickly caught the falling Jiang Chu Ran. Zhou Yi had no choice but to accept it. Soon after, many students also fell from the sky, and many were seriously injured. All the teachers immediately rushed over to treat their injuries. An hour later, the first phase of the freshman competition was announced to be over, and next was the announcement of each student's ranking and their completion times. The redhead young man started smiling broadly as he was already imagining himself ranked first. As expected, the fastest clearance time was 4 minutes and 57 seconds. Secret Realm clearance time, 13 minutes and 35 seconds. Additional stage clearance time, 7 minutes and 42 seconds. The first place on the leaderboard was Zhou Yi. Third was Jiang Chu Ran. Seeing this ranking, Shen Lingfeng was even more stunned, and what was more, Zhou Yi was a full 15 minutes faster than him. He was even more furious. Second place again, How is it always you taking first place from me? In the upcoming arena match, I must defeat you. At this moment, Zhou Yi also noticed Shen Lingfeng, and he couldn't understand why Shen Lingfeng was so agitated. The arena match of the freshman competition officially begins. The rule of the arena match is that each person has 3 opportunities to challenge, with a 5-minute rest period in between. Subsequently, all the students began to issue challenges, including Shen Lingfeng, who was always eager to prove himself. He loudly invited Zhou Yi. Come on, Zhou Yi, let's see who is stronger. Zhou Yi was somewhat bewildered by Shen Lingfeng's challenge, but soon Jiang Churan informed him. He is Shen Lingfeng, ranked 2nd, a genius from the Jiangning great families. Because of your sudden debut, his wish to become the first place in Sukang district fell apart, so he holds a grudge against you. After hearing this, Zhou Yi walked away, ready to face the battle. Because of the spirit of chivalry, Zhou Yi would definitely not back down. Seeing Zhou Yi step up, Shen Lingfeng's fighting spirit blazed like the fierce fire in his hands. The next second, he attacked Zhou Yi. The watching headmaster immediately saw that Shen Lingfeng's combat decision was very correct, but he vastly underestimated Zhou Yi's strength. He couldn't understand, nor could he imagine, how Zhou Yi managed to release his skills in that instant. Chu Yi summoned his warhammer, planning to respond with close combat. In an instant, Zhou Yi appeared right in front of Shen Lingfeng, delivering a terrifying blow with his warhammer. The extremely fast speed allowed Shen Lingfeng to solidly receive a hammer strike. What's more terrifying was that his fire shield instantly shattered. Chu Yi, now out of sight, had already moved behind Shen Lingfeng, and all Shen could do was watch helplessly. He was unwilling to concede, but Zhou Yi wasn't going to hold back, and he hammered Shen Lingfeng again. At that moment, Shen Lingfeng activated his Fire Dragon body, his last trump card. The Flame Dragon form provided him with a terrifying boost, significantly increasing both his strength and speed, but that was as far as it went. Because the gap between Shen Lingfeng and Zhou Yi couldn't be bridged by just a simple boost. However, the boost from the Flame Dragon form was still impressive. Shen Lingfeng managed to dodge the strike, which surprised Zhou Yi. Knowing he couldn't defeat Zhou Yi in close combat, Shen decided to switch to ranged attacks. He released Dragon Breath towards Zhou Yi. The next second, a terrifying flame confronted Zhou Yi. The other students couldn't help but worry for Zhou Yi because Dragon Breath is a unique bloodline skill of the Fire Dragon lineage. Faced with Dragon Breath, Zhou Yi wasn't panicked. He just stood still and simply released Holy Flame Halo. A miraculous scene occurred where the flames were completely absorbed by the halo. At this moment, fear appeared on Shen Lingfeng's face. He refused to believe that a freshman could be so powerful. So he continued to release Dragon Breath towards Zhou Yi, but it was all in vain as the halo absorbed it again. Seeing Shen Lingfeng's refusal to accept reality, Zhou Yi planned to defeat him using the flames he prided himself on. At this moment, Shen Lingfeng still believed he could regain control of the flames, but he faced the harsh reality of not being able to do so. So the battle finally concluded with Zhou Yi emerging as the victor. With a completely dominating performance, Zhou Yi thoroughly defeated Shen Lingfeng. The students below were already immensely shocked because this was just a part of Zhou Yi's strength. At this moment, another district first place caught the attention of the various house-masters because she wanted to challenge the unfathomably powerful Zhou Yi. I am Song Xialan, a level 17 spiritual Taoist priest. Please enlighten me. Spiritual Taoist priests are not only skilled in using various talismans and sealing techniques, but this profession is also extremely rare in China. Song Xialan sought out Zhou Yi because she had taken a great interest in him, and she strongly insisted that Zhou Yi use his full strength and declared she would not interrupt Zhou Yi's buffs. At this time, the students below were also very surprised because they knew Song Xialan was the precious daughter of the Song family, and she was also the only family representative in the outside world. Zhou Yi immediately agreed to Song Xialan's request because he hadn't fully enjoyed himself just yet. Hearing Zhou Yi's response, Song Xialan couldn't help but become excited. Zhou Yi used all his buffs and a powerful aura burst forth. Just the aura emitted was enough to startle Song Xialan, and this was Zhou Yi at his peak. Song Xialan knew that if she did not use her full strength, she would probably be completely crushed by Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi took the lead with a heavenly fury hammer towards Song Xialan, who countered with multiple talismans. Heaven's mandate is clear. Stars guide the way. Sacred charms manifest. Honor my command. Under Song Xialan's command, the talismans exploded instantly, blocking Zhou Yi's attack. But she found that Zhou Yi, who had just been in front of her, had suddenly disappeared. Suddenly, a rush of panic surged in her heart because Zhou Yi had moved behind her. She took Zhou Yi's attack, but she was not in a good condition because she felt Zhou Yi gradually breaking down her defenses. If this continues, she will definitely lose. So, she decided to use the trick up her sleeve. Heaven and earth lend me your power. Beings turn into elite soldiers. Divine might illustrious, heed my command. Zhou Yi, seeing Song Xiaolan's setup, realized it was the Taoist legend of turning beings into soldiers. Then these Taoist soldiers charged at Zhou Yi, who immediately launched an attack, swinging his warhammer with full force. He successfully killed several Taoist soldiers, but the slain soldiers slowly recovered and even surrounded Zhou Yi. Although these Taoist soldiers could not harm Zhou Yi, he could not overcome them either, so Zhou Yi planned to strike the leader first. The moment he repelled the Taoist soldiers, he appeared behind Song Xiaolan and swung his warhammer. The next second, Song Xiaolan raised both hands, hastily conceding defeat, which somewhat dissatisfied Zhou Yi. Our strengths are simply not on the same level. There's no need to continue fighting. So, I concede. After saying this, Song Xiaolan walked away, indicating that there might be another chance to spar in the future. Thus, anyone else not convinced? I am right here waiting for your challenge. As soon as he said this, the students below turned to look the other way, as if they hadn't heard a thing. Meanwhile, Jiang Churen had already become smitten, cheering for Zhou Yi. At this moment, the housemasters of the 5 major houses were doing their calculations, with Wu Meng secretly planning how to win over Zhou Yi. He was determined to secure Zhou Yi. Meanwhile, the competition continued. After being defeated by Zhou Yi, Shen Lingfeng's strength diminished significantly, and he was subsequently challenged repeatedly, leading to a disastrous defeat. 30 minutes later, the freshman competition finally ended. Zhou Yi was crowned the first place with his absolute strength. The end of the freshman competition also meant that the distribution of various resources had been finalized. Next, it was time for house selection. Students, our Sukang University has 5 major houses for you to choose from based on your own circumstances. The 5 houses are the House of War, the House of Elements, the House of Weaponry, the House of Tactics, and the House of Logistics. The House of War primarily focuses on practical combat skills, improving survival abilities on the battlefield, enabling better survival in wars. The House of Elements specializes in recruiting students with a focus on elemental magic, studying and exploring the ultimate truths of elemental magic. The House of Armaments teaches the use of various weapons, combining physical strength with weaponry to unleash greater power. The House of Tactics aims to cultivate students' command capabilities, achieving victory from 1,000 miles away and strategizing behind the scenes, which is synonymous with the House of Tactics. The House of Logistics recruits more lifestyle-oriented professionals, allowing students to learn various specialized lifestyle-related professional knowledge. These are the introductions to the 5 major houses of Sukang University. Choose the house that best suits your needs. At this moment, Jiang Churen also couldn't help but wonder which house Zhou Yi would choose. Just then, Wu Meng suddenly coughed twice. Zhou Yi, if you come to my House of War, I will be your private tutor. Hearing about a private tutor, Zhou Yi was stunned. Each mentor can choose one exclusive disciple, and the mentor's resources will also be primarily provided to the exclusive disciple. Additionally, I will give you 3 A-level skill books. Student Zhou Yi, choosing a personal mentor is a serious decision. If you come to our House of Elements, I promise to provide you with a set of legendary equipment. Zhou Yi, if you come to my House of Weaponry, any resources that are beneficial to you can be given to you. Seeing that each offer was better than his, Wu Meng immediately started cursing. Watching these housemasters vying for him, Zhou Yi felt this scene was somewhat familiar. Hearing the conditions offered by the housemasters, the students were already in an uproar, surprised that Zhou Yi was so in demand. Suddenly, Zhou Yi, become my personal disciple. If you agree, I will perform a bloodline fusion technique on you. Hearing this, Zhou Yi was even more puzzled because he did not understand what the bloodline fusion technique was. And this technique is not only a forbidden level spell, but also one that can endow humans with special bloodlines. This technique will not only enhance your physique, but also make your foundation more solid. As you level up in the future, you will gain more attribute points and skill points. All the students were shocked by the conditions offered by the headmaster. With such a backer, Zhou Yi is bound to soar. Even Jiang Churan was particularly shocked when she heard that Zhou Yi's bloodline could be changed. And the major housemasters also knew that Zhou Yi was about to be taken under the headmaster's wing. Suddenly, this is the gold medal awarded to you by the Snow Dragon Corps' captain. Immediately, Shen Lingfeng was greatly surprised. As a prodigy from a great family, he knew the significance of this gold medal. And the other students had only heard of it but never imagined that they would see it with their own eyes today. To receive such an honor as a freshman is simply unbelievable. And Zhou Yi, he was even more bewildered. He thought hard, but couldn't figure out what significant contribution he had made to China. Student Zhou Yi, this is for your substantial contributions in the Tempest Mountain Range, and it is well deserved. After hearing this, Zhou Yi was still somewhat puzzled. Logically speaking, he had only eliminated a demon legion, which should not be enough to earn such a medal. He didn't think much of it and gladly accepted the medal. Regarding the matter of the Tempest Mountain Range, he planned to ask the headmaster about it later. Considering the headmaster's offer, both in terms of status and strength, it was the best choice. So Zhou Yi agreed. Teacher, I am honored to become your student. Since you have agreed, let me take you with me now. Are you so eager to take Zhou Yi away because you're afraid we'll steal your disciple? Besides, who could take him from you? After saying this, the headmaster led Zhou Yi away in front of all the teachers and students. So, the attention of the various housemasters turned to Jiang Churan, who placed second in the freshman competition. Student Jiang Churan, would you like to become my personal disciple? The conditions will be the same as those for Zhou Yi. After hearing this, Wu Mang could no longer restrain himself and immediately started arguing with Rongqi. Meanwhile, the headmaster took Zhou Yi to a private mansion, where various potions and treasures were piled up. Truly a sight to behold. This is my private mansion. It holds many treasures and is also where I practice. If you need anything in the future, you can come here to find me. His was the first time Zhou Yi had seen such a mansion, especially one that could only be entered through teleportation. The headmaster took Zhou Yi to the place where the bloodline fusion technique would be performed. The bloodline fusion technique can give you a better foundation and is the capital for your strength enhancement. The core to this spell is the choice of the source blood. When most classes can no longer level up, they will choose to merge with other race bloods to increase their power. Could it be that even someone of your level has to worry about not being able to level up? Yes, indeed. At my level, each level up requires a massive amount of experience. Currently, I am at level 64. Otherworld monsters of this level are leader-level bosses that cannot be easily defeated, so it's difficult to level up. For this bloodline refinement, I have prepared 3 types of source blood for you. Which 3 types of source blood? The first type is the source blood of the angel race. The second is from the Titan race, and the third is from the dragon race. All these are source bloods from divine races, capable of endowing you with great power, but you can only choose one. Angel source blood is from the descendants of the god of light. After refinement, it can give you a higher affinity for the light element. Titan source blood possesses powerful lightning attributes, doubling the damage when releasing lightning skills. Dragon source blood, the pure source blood from direct descendants of the dragon god. It has a certain suppressive effect on all beast races. After listening to the headmaster's introduction, Zhou Yi was momentarily stunned because all 3 races are high-tier races above level 60. Regarding bloodlines, Zhou Yi didn't know much, so he asked the headmaster which source blood he should choose. The headmaster was impressed by Zhou Yi's calm and composure, surprised that Zhou Yi could still remain rational in this situation. Titan source blood and dragon source blood mainly enhance your strength and spells. Angel source blood can improve you in all aspects, and given the close connection between you and the god of light, undoubtedly, angel source blood is the best choice for you. Seeing the reaction produced by the angel source blood in Zhou Yi's hands, the headmaster became even more certain that angel source blood was definitely the best choice. Teacher, I want to ask, why was I given this golden medal? Since you want to know, I won't hide it from you. When you annihilated a demon legion in the Tempest Mountain Range, the military discovered that monsters could descend through medium-sized cracks. Hearing this news, Zhou Yi was also shocked. There must be plenty of otherworldly creatures hiding throughout China. Indeed, after preliminary investigations, the military has already found over 100 cracks where this is occurring. Fortunately, it was discovered early, and the monsters are of low level, so the core can still handle it. After saying this, the headmaster sent Zhou Yi back, as he needed to prepare for the bloodline fusion, and also gave Zhou Yi a teleportation device, instructing Zhou Yi to come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. A day later, Zhou Yi completed his daily tasks as usual. The headmaster had said that the effect of bloodline fusion depends on one's fate, which is essentially luck. So he thought of the fortune elixir. Since it's about luck, then this potion must be useful. He decided to try its effect, especially since he hadn't chosen his daily task reward yet. So he chose a random treasure box to test its effect. Unexpectedly, he obtained an S-level rare treasure that enhances constitution and spell damage. He hit the jackpot instantly, and even Zhou Yi didn't expect the effect to be so good. With such a boost, the upcoming bloodline fusion surely won't be too bad. Zhou Yi once again came to the headmaster's private mansion. This time, there was another person in the mansion, Chou Huayang, the housemaster of the House of Elements. He had come to help Zhou Yi complete the bloodline fusion. The headmaster instructed Zhou Yi to take off his shirt and sit in the center of the formation. Next, Zhou Yi was about to begin the bloodline fusion. The headmaster stood by to guard the formation, while Chou Huayang activated the formation. Beams of light suddenly erupted, surrounding Zhou Yi at the center. The source blood began to be absorbed by Zhou Yi, radiating brilliant light. Zhou Yi continued to absorb the source blood, but at that moment, an unexpected event occurred. An extremely cold aura suddenly burst forth, completely covering the energy of the light attribute. Zhou Yi's frost bloodline suddenly erupted, spreading an extremely cold aura throughout the entire room. Even Chou Huayang, the housemaster of the House of Elements, could not withstand this cold. He was certain that if Zhou Yi had chosen the profession of a mage, just with this bloodline alone, Zhou Yi could become the top ice mage. The headmaster also did not expect that Zhou Yi's frost bloodline would be so terrifying. What shocked him even more was that the frost bloodline could contend with the angel source blood. It is known that angel bloodlines are among the most elite in the world. From this, it can be guessed that Zhou Yi's origins are definitely not as simple as they had initially thought. According to his knowledge, having such a high-quality frost bloodline, Zhou Yi must be a descendant of one of the earliest high-level players to participate in the Eternal Game. The frost bloodline and the angel source blood were in opposition. If this continues, a significant amount of the essence of the angel source blood will be lost. In the end, the final effect might not even match an A-grade treasure. Zhou Yi could only leave it to fate, as once the bloodline fusion was initiated, it could not be interrupted, or Zhou Yi might explode and die. All they could do was pray that Zhou Yi would have good luck. The two bloodlines were contending with each other, and the intense pain caused Zhou Yi to faint. When Zhou Yi woke up again, his consciousness arrived in a place called the mental realm. Although he did not know what was happening, he noticed a woman in front of him. "I am sent by God to bless you. You will gain great power. You will be unconstrained by anything in the world, only needing to follow your desires and will." So, do you wish to accept this power? Zhou Yi wasn't really listening to what she was saying. He only knew that his instincts wanted to completely annihilate this woman. Accept this gift. This blessing will make you stronger than ever before. But what responded to her was a warhammer strike from Zhou Yi. The reason Zhou Yi acted this way was that he refused to be controlled by any evil power. He was simply following his own heart. At this time, in a distant and unknown sacred temple, a six-winged angel saw this scene and couldn't help but laugh. The girl beside the angel was curious because she had never seen the six-winged angel laugh like this before. "I just saw a very interesting person." A holy and bright power began to gather in her hands, slowly drifting toward the distant void. Meanwhile, angered by Zhou Yi's hammer strike, the woman became furious. "You dare to offend a deity? Kneel down, or the god will send divine punishment and reduce you to ashes." She planned to torment him. Chains formed from evil power completely bound Zhou Yi. Under the powerful force, he couldn't move at all. What's more terrifying was that his surroundings were filled with countless pairs of blood-red eyes. This is the divine punishment sent by the gods. This is the fate of those who disrespect Lord Exia. Hearing the name Exia, Zhou Yi understood. "So you're a lackey of the evil gods." After hearing this, she immediately slapped Zhou Yi. She could not tolerate Zhou Yi insulting her god. "I am specifically sent by the master to baptize you. Rejoice, only Lord Exia can guide you to the right path." Suddenly, a wrenching pain surged into Zhou Yi's heart as the evil power eroded his consciousness. If this continues, Zhou Yi might become corrupted. Outside the spiritual realm, Chou Huayang and Wang Hui suddenly felt uneasy because they too sensed this evil aura. Why is there an evil aura? Could it be that the remains of the angel were killed by an evil god? Wang Hui intended to destroy this power, but it rebounded back at him. If we can't destroy this power, then the power of the angel will surely be destroyed by it. Suddenly, Wang Hui noticed that the angelic power within Zhou Yi had not weakened but had grown stronger instead. Zhou Yi also realized that, at that moment, he seemed to have received some kind of power. Just then, Zhou Yi seemed to start evolving. A divine aura burst from within him, completely shattering the chains. And this divine power subtly merged with the power of ice. She couldn't understand. She was ready to devour Zhou Yi's soul. Yet Zhou Yi suddenly surged with such powerful divine force. Slowly, under the influence of the ice power, she was frozen in place. And Zhou Yi, under the influence of the divine and ice powers, transformed into an unknown form. In this form, Zhou Yi felt stronger than ever before. But what's more important now is that he needs to kill this lackey of the evil god. Zhou Yi unleashed a strike. The dual bloodline powers erupted with terrifying force. Instantly, an unsettling evil aura surged from the woman's body. An extremely evil presence burst forth, as if some entity was about to descend. The next second, an indescribable repulsive being appeared. Its arrival seemed aimed at annihilating Zhou Yi right there. Your resistance is just a minor inconvenience to my grand plan. Chains pierced through Zhou Yi's wings, making it momentarily pleased. But the next second, it realized something was wrong, because Zhou Yi had suddenly moved behind it. Even more terrifying was that its entire body was immobilized by a formation. In an instant, ice spikes had burst from the ground, piercing its body. Each ice spike inflicted extreme damage. I accept this grand gift you've given. Suddenly, waves of evil power surged out, enveloping all the ice spikes. And in an instant, it absorbed the ice spikes into its body. Do you see? This is the power of a god. Such power you mere mortals cannot comprehend. The next second, countless red beams shot from its eyes. Zhou Yi, relying on his agility, frantically dodged. These red beams were actually terrifying chains, aiming to restrict Zhou Yi's movements, because it was preparing to unleash a major attack. A terrifying wave of energy burst from its mouth, targeting Zhou Yi. The power of this strike was undoubtedly immense. Even the aftershocks could shatter the void. Suddenly, the wings of ice completely transformed into wings of light, reaching their final form. Seeing Zhou Yi unharmed, it couldn't believe it. It could only continuously use light beams to block Zhou Yi's attacks. But it was futile because attacks of this level couldn't touch Zhou Yi. When Zhou Yi approached it, it was all over. A finger infused with endless light pointed out. A streak of aurora appeared from his fingertip, dazzling like the sun. It couldn't believe, even in its dying moments, how such a small human could possess such power. How is this possible? How can you have such immense power? Impossible. The ultimate power of light continuously annihilated it, its cries slowly fading under the light. The battle came to an end, and the light ultimately overcame the darkness. Suddenly, a new angel source blood slowly descended from the sky, falling directly into Zhou Yi's hands. Looking at the distant sky, he couldn't help but ponder. Although he didn't know why the angel source blood appeared, it was certainly a good thing. Without hesitation, he absorbed the angel source blood into his body. This aura? Could it be that the angelic power has obliterated the evil power? It seems so, and the angelic and frost bloodlines seem to have merged as well. As Zhou Yi continued to absorb the angel source blood, an apparition of a six-winged angel appeared above his head. Mysterious runes representing light gathered on his chest, and the apparition of the six-winged angel began to merge with him. When he opened his eyes, a strong light burst forth instantly. Clearly, this time Zhou Yi's bloodline fusion and evolution were successful. Everything concluded towards the best possible outcome. Zhou Yi, you truly are a person blessed with great fortune. Receiving the blessing of the God of Light at a critical moment, it's unbelievable. By the way, Zhou Yi, can you feel any changes in your body now? I feel full of strength. It seems like my strength has made a qualitative improvement. Suddenly, Zhou Yi saw a notification from the system. His bloodline turned out to be that of a six-winged angel, and he also had a bloodline talent named Magic Immunity. Teacher, my bloodline is that of a six-winged angel, and I've inherited 2 bloodline talents. The six-winged angel bloodline, the highest of all angels. It seems your bloodline fusion was very successful, acquiring the six-winged angel bloodline. With this bloodline, your bloodline talent level will also evolve to an S+ grade. Suddenly, Zhou Yi was again captivated by a system pop-up, because he had also obtained an S+ grade bloodline secret technique named Angel Physique. An S+ level bloodline secret technique, that's interesting. Try activating the Angel Physique now, and let's see how much your strength has increased. Angel Physique allows one to transform into a divine descendant of a six-winged angel. The higher the level, the stronger the enhancement. Angel Physique. After he spoke, a massive amount of light energy appeared instantly, enveloping Zhou Yi. A vortex of light elements fiercely gathered at his chest, gradually expanding, soon submerging Zhou Yi's figure. Both onlookers' eyes widened at the scene before them. Incredible! Even just the fluctuation of elemental energy is so powerful. Under the entwinement of light elements, a halo formed above Zhou Yi's head. Suddenly, an angel with a halo and wings of light appeared, and it was Zhou Yi. Wang Hui sensed his power from the aura emanating from Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi, after you deploy the angel physique, your strength has increased by at least 5 times. As Wang Hui said, Zhou Yi's body was filled with power like never before. What surprised him even more was that he could also feel the power of ice. At this moment, his right hand controlled the power of ice and his left hand governed the light. Suddenly, the room's defense system detected this power. Warning! High-level energy detected, initiating Tier 3 defense mode. Upon this, Wang Hui smiled reassuringly. All right, retract your secret technique now, otherwise the defense system will attack you. A flash of light passed, and Zhou Yi retracted the angel physique, returning to his basic form. The room's defense system also dimmed accordingly. At this time, Zhou Yi noticed a sensation of swelling and pain throughout his body, so he used slow healing to treat himself. What's wrong? The angel physique can greatly enhance my strength, but even just using it for a moment without fighting, I felt a sense of swelling and pain all over. The angel physique is, after all, an S+ grade secret technique, so it's normal for it to be consuming. Besides, it can bring you extreme enhancement. Just save it as your final trump card. The 6-winged angel bloodline, 2 major evolutionary talents, and an S+ grade bloodline secret technique, you have already far exceeded the scope of a freshman. By the way, considering the frost bloodline in your body, it's likely that your sister's bloodline is not weak either. If you want her to better awaken her bloodline, it would be best to refine the freezing lotus into a frost pill for her to consume. After some friendly chat, Wang Hui let Zhou Yi go back to rest well. Although the bloodline fusion was very successful, the sudden emergence of evil power had them worried. Do you think the appearance of this evil god's power was a coincidence? Chu Huayang asked. I think whether it is a coincidence or not, we must be vigilant. If something unexpected happens to him, it would be a great loss for our entire country. I will initiate an investigation into this incident. Back at home, Zhou Yi was still pondering Wang Hui's words. According to what he knew, to refine the frost pill, he needed an A-grade treasure, icicle grass. As for the icicle grass, it should be available in the school's marketplace. He could just buy it with points when the time comes.